Christiana here for Card Player TV, and I'm in the studio with Tom Schneider, player to look out for in the main event. Got 123,000 in chips. First of all, how did your day one start?
My day one started great. I had a really good table, and everybody seems to want to bluff me this year. So I haven't had really big hands, but I've called down on a lot of bluffs with very little ace high, pair of deuces, that kind of thing. And so I chipped up pretty nicely. Ended the day with 80,000.
What is it about you, do you think, that everybody wants to bluff you?
I don't know. I think everybody wants to bluff everybody this year, it seems like. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe I try to play hands a little weaker this year against people who I think are aggressive. So I kind of want them to bluff me. And it seems that they're doing that. So, and that happened yesterday as well. The only pots I really won was where I called people down with bluffs. So.
In the beginning of the tournament, when you have a table full of players that you don't know, is it profitable to try and bluff those players?
I actually, as all good poker players do, they try to assess the players at the table and see who they can bluff and who they can't bluff. And there were a few people at my table I felt like I could bluff pretty easily, but I also thought they were coming in weak, so their holdings were going to be a lot weaker, and so make it easier to bluff them because they're not going to have much of a hand most of the time anyway.
All right, so you ended day one pretty decent, more than doubled your chip stack. How did day two start for you?
Day two started great. I went from 80,000 to about 156,000 in two levels, and then all of a sudden I had a big hand with Pam Brunson. I tried to get her off of a hand, and
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I had King 10 of diamonds, and she had an ace jack on the button, and I know she plays pretty tight, but she raised on the button, and I had King 10 of diamonds. Another player called behind me in the big blind, and the flop came 2 diamonds and a gut shot straight draw for me.
Okay.
And I checked and she bet, and I thought I'm just gonna, I don't know why, I just didn't want to play very slow. I wanted to kind of see if she would bet again, do another bet, because then I would be able to put her on her hand. And so then the turn came, another card that wasn't helpful, but so I still have the diamond draw and the gut shot straight draw. And I just thought that button raises are a lot different than other raises, and I felt like she was strong, but not strong enough to call off her last 20,000 or so in chips. But she had ace jack, and the flop had a jack on it, and 3 undercards. And so I checked, she bet, and I moved all in, and she called me instantly, which I was a little bit surprised because she just had ace jack. But I think she thought I was on a draw because there were two hearts, 2 diamonds on the board. So anyway. Then another jack came, and she won a huge pot, and that was kind of the start of my downfall a little bit. I had, I just kind of couldn't get anything going after that. I was just not catching any cards, and so I just kind of shut down for the rest of the day, feeling like I just wasn't, I didn't want to blow away any more chips. So fortunately, towards the end I was down to about 95,000 towards the end of the day, and one of the last 4 or 5 hands of the day yesterday. I had pocket threes in the big blind, and this young guy sitting on the button, very aggressive player. I knew he was an aggressive player. He raised, and so I just called, and the flop was 6-5 deuce. So I checked, and he bet, and I thought that probably didn't hit him. And I called, and then a queen came on the turn. And I decided, and it was a flush draw. I decided to bet out there. I bet out with a pair of threes. He raised me, and I just felt like, he wouldn't raise me there. It just didn't seem right for him to raise me there.
You mean he wouldn't raise you with a queen?
He might raise me with a queen there, but that's about the only hand he can raise me with, I felt like, unless he had aces or kings. But he's on the button again, so he could have anything. And I just felt like he was trying to be aggressive and take the pot away from me. It's also hard to raise a guy in the big blind when a flop like 6-5 deuce comes, because you don't know what I have. I mean, and so anyway, I decided to call him there. And then on the river came a blank, and it went check, check, and my pair of threes was good. So that was a really big call for me because it was toward the end of the day. I was going to be down to 60,000 if I lose that pot. Instead, I ended up being up about 120, 123 for the day.
What goes into your decision making on that turn when you think that he might be bluffing, to just call him there instead of, maybe raising him, that puts yourself in a hard spot in case he re-raises again, and you're making the pot a lot bigger. But what goes into your decision whether to just call if you think he's bluffing or raising?
Well, I thought he was bluffing, and I wanted him to bluff at it again, even though it's hard to call with 2 threes. But I wanted him to take another shot at it again, And that's really what I was doing. I also, I don't want to put myself in a spot where now I give him a chance to rebluff me.
Okay.
And I got to call off a really big bet, almost from my tournament life. I think I had him covered, but not by much. And so I just didn't want to. I'd rather play small there. I wanted to pick up the pot on the turn, but it turned out I made more money doing the way I did it.
Okay. And of course it's player dependent. He was one of those guys who's capable of like 4-betting with bluffing.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Another thing I wanted to ask is, in tournaments, a lot of it's about momentum. So maybe if you went from 50,000 to 90,000, you would be okay and feeling good. But since you went from 156,000 to like 90,000, it feels like you've lost all that momentum. So how do you kind of mentally deal with that to try and keep yourself in the right mindset to play?
Well, that's a great question, because I really do think tournaments are all about momentum. And I feel like when you feel like you've lost some momentum, I'd start folding a lot more hands. I want to get that tight image back. I want people to start so that when I do come back in, I can win my first pot when I come back in. I think it's important to win that first pot you play after you've had something devastating happen or something like that. I think it's good to just take time out. I play a little bit less aggressively, call less, not take as many chances, wait till I feel like I can win that pot, then I'll play, then I win that pot, and then I feel like I get the momentum back on my side.
That's a great point. So if you had just lost a big pot, a couple hands later, you pick up a hand like pocket fives in early position, are you kind of just like letting that go just to kind of build it back up?
Yeah,
okay.
I might let it go, or instead of maybe putting a raise in there, I might limp and then be willing to fold it, just because I don't want to bleed off a bunch of chips. I'm very likely going to fold it and just say I'm going to wait, but more likely I might just limp and say, let's see what happens and see how the action goes and all that. But at least I'm not going to. I just don't want to lose 2 big pots in a row. Mentally, it's devastating.
Absolutely.
And then, plus my chip stack has always been above average. So I've also had that kind of it's a nice barometer to say, okay, everything's fine. You look around at, the other thing I do too is I look around at other people at the table who have much shorter stacks than me, and look at how calm they are, look at how peaceful they are, how in control they are, and I say, okay, this guy's in control with 40,000 and I have 90, even though I feel like I'm a short stack.
Right.
I can look at him and go, okay, he's a good example, and those kinds of things really calm me down as well.
All right, well, so with that last pot, you have a little bit of momentum going into day 3 on Friday.
Right.
So how do you feel, and what have you been doing in the last couple of days to try and get yourself back and ready to play again?
Well, I don't really do much to get ready to play.
Yeah.
All I've done is play poker since I've been here, so I feel like I'm ready to play. And I'm excited for the third day. It's just this is the most stressful tournament that you can possibly play. It's a long grind, and we've played 2 full days and still no money, still probably going to be 1,200 players left going into day 3, so it's going to be brutal to have played that long and to not have any results yet. And to also know that my last table I played at was a brutal table. I mean, I could tell that everybody there was a good player, everybody there was aggressive, and my first few tables in this tournament have been the exact opposite. So I'm hoping I get a good draw. That's a key in this tournament and moving ahead. Also you can pick up a lot of chips if you get a bad draw, because these guys are so aggressive that you're going to get paid off, and they're gonna torture themselves sometimes. But I'm just hoping I get a nice kind of relaxing table draw. I had Rolf Slotboom at my first table yesterday, and Pam Brunson, and he and I and Pam. It was very nice, kind of a chit-chatty kind of a table. Nothing really, nobody getting too out of line, and Rolf's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
And so we had fun just going back and forth, grading bananas and apples and just all sorts of strange things. But anyway, it was a fun table. This last table, not much chit chat, not much talking, bunch of aggressive players, and I really didn't care for that. So I hope it's a little more fun. On Friday.
Especially when it's such a grind, if you get a couple players who are a little bit more laid back, and it'll make it more enjoyable. So we'll look for you on day 3, and good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Christy Arnett with Tom Schneider for Card Play TV.